أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. The most beautiful dua by Musa alayhi salam, which says, O my Lord, open for me my chest, that is, grant me self-confidence, contentment and boldness, and ease my task for me, and make loose the knot, the defect from my tongue, that is, remove the incorrectness from my speech, so that they may understand my speech. And now, praise for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We ask Allah to bless his entire family, the most pure, the most noble of all families. And we ask Allah to bless all his companions. And we ask Allah to bless every single one of us. And to bless our offsprings, those to come up to the day of Qiyamah. And may Allah bless the entire Ummah at large. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. We are back, and this time we are back with Guess Which series. If you remember, we had series number 2 also, which was all about adorning our lives with the Islamic wisdom. So I thought let's revive that also, so that we can keep adorning our lives from what we are learning from Hadith, from Quran, from Seerah. So we can take all that learning into adorning ourselves with this wisdom. So therefore, this particular series also inshallah has been revived to continue parallelly. So today we have series number 2, and then we'll have the series number 5, which is of literal translation of the holy text of Quran. Then we'll have the Seerah, then we'll have the Hadith. So 4 series will keep going on simultaneously inshallah. So getting back to this particular series, which is series number 2, which is about adorning our lives with Islamic wisdom. Now, of course, there is so much of that which is present within this beautiful deen of Islam. The main message of Islam, we all know, is the same basic message which has been there in all the revealed religions. And of course, we also understand that it comes from the same source. But we also see the disparities that which come within the religions then. So today, what we are adorning ourselves is going to be about the very core, the basic, the very core idea which is there. Somebody asks, what is it? What is Islam all about? What is the core? What is the basic idea about which is present in this deen of Islam? So that's what we are going to very, very briefly touch upon today in this particular chapter. Now we all know that so many blessings, so many favors which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon humanity, which has been innumerous, uncountable, which has been there. But among all those blessings and all those favors which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon humanity, the most important one, can you think about it? Which is the most important of the blessings? Which is the most important favor that Allah has bestowed on us? Think about it. Well, let me tell you, that is in fact that innate ability which is there within all of us to recognize and to acknowledge His existence. This innate ability which is there, whether we intentionally admit it or not, but this is something which Allah has placed. He placed this awareness so deep in our hearts, and that's a natural disposition which is there. And this is something which has not changed since human beings were first created. It's present since then. Not just this basic, very innate ability which is there deep in our hearts, that natural disposition which is there deep in our hearts, to be able to acknowledge, to be able to recognize. More important also is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reinforced this natural disposition not just within our hearts, but also with the signs which He placed in the creation. If you look at the creation carefully, you find the signs of the Creator, and that's something which again testifies to His existence. However, since this is something which is innate, which is there, sometimes people are not able to admit there are a lot of preconditions, preconceived notions, lot of social conditioning which goes on when a child is born, which can be through the education, the media, the family, so many influences which are there. So, because it is not possible for human beings to be able to have that very detailed knowledge of God, except through the revelation, through that revelation which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reveals from Himself. And how is it revealed? Through His messengers. So this kind of, detailed knowledge which is there, of course the fitra is there, but we need to know more about it. So that moreness is something which comes to us through revelation. And Allah sends that through the messengers to teach people about their Creator, who is the Creator, who should they worship, and not just who should they worship, but also the details of how to worship. Because these are the kinds of details which cannot be known in any other way other than the revelation. Otherwise, everybody would be following their own ways, and that's what we see around with so many religions. There's so much confusion. Nobody knows who's the Creator. Some say this is the one. The other one says that's the one. Then they have their own different ways of worshipping. So because of all of this confusion, and that confusion, in itself shows that it means that it's not coming from God. Because when it comes from God, it is crystal clear. There is no ambiguity in it. There is no confusion in it. And it teaches not just who is the Creator, but also on how to worship that Creator. So these two fundamentals, these two, who is the Creator and how do you worship that Creator, these two fundamentals have been the most important things which the messengers of all the divine revelations, they have brought with them from God. And on the basis of that, on the basis of, all the divine revelations, there have been some lofty objectives which have come across to us. What are these objectives which get revealed through the divine revelation across that we see? First of all, to affirm the oneness of God. That's the most important core idea. The oneness. The praise, the glorified Creator that He is. So in His essence, in His attribute, there is complete oneness. Second most important aspect which comes out is to affirm that God alone should be worshipped. No other being should be worshipped along with Him or instead of Him. That becomes again a very important objective which comes out through the divine revelation. And in fact, that is how we can know whether this revelation has been divine or not. Because a lot of times we see people, they may start worshipping animals, nature, tree, rat, so many things. So this is something which is very crystal clear, which comes from something which is the truth. And that is that God alone, that Creator alone should be worshipped, and no other being should be worshipped along with the Creator or instead of the Creator. Third important aspect which is present within the divine revelations which has been there is we have understood about the oneness of the God in terms of the essence, in terms of the attribute. We've also got then that He alone should be worshipped. So no partnership. third aspect which tells us this is a divine revelation, and which has come from all the divine revelations which have been there, has been about safeguarding human welfare. If it is not safeguarding human welfare, if it is not opposing corruption, if it is not opposing evil, then for sure we know that's not coming from Haq. It's not coming from God. So therefore, everything that safeguards faith, life, reason, wealth, lineage, they are part of this human welfare, and that is something which only a true religion protects. And nothing can come in comparison to that. When people come with their isms and their philosophies of saying, we are humanitarians, or we are liberals, or we believe that everybody should be respected, they don't have that kind of core idea of human welfare with such clarity, which is presented through a religion which is coming from God. So in terms of safeguarding of the faith, safeguarding of life, reason, wealth, lineage, everything gets encompassed. And if we see on the other hand anything which endangers these 5 very universal needs, that is a form of corruption. And that is something which a religion which is coming directly from God will obviously anytime oppose, and it will prohibit that. Then the fourth very important objective which comes from a divine revelation is to invite the people to the highest level of virtue, highest level of moral values, and most noble of the customs. If that is something which is present, you will know that this is not coming from anybody else other than the God. So these are the objectives. If you see these, and if these all 4 objectives are being satisfied, we know that this is something which is coming from directly from the Creator Himself, from God Himself. And of course, the ultimate goal of every divine message has always been the same. It is to guide the people towards the Creator, to make them aware of Him, to have them worship Him alone. And each of the divine message which has come so far to us, it came to strengthen this meaning. And that's the reason always these words were something which were repeated on the tongues of all the messengers, peace be upon all of them. And what is that message? Worship God. You have no God other than Him. So this is the message which has been conveyed to humanity by our beloved prophets and the messengers, peace be upon them, which God had sent to every nation. Now all of these messengers, if we see then, they came with the same message. And that's why this core message is what is the message of Islam. So now think about it. Which is the oldest of the religions? When we are understanding what the core message is, which has been there right from the very beginning, that is precisely the message of Islam. Now, all the divine messages which came to bring the life of the people into that willing submission to that Creator, to that God, that was the basic purpose of these divine messages which came. And that's and that submission to that Creator, for this very reason we have the name Islam, because Islam means submission. It's derived from that same word salam, which means peace in Arabic. So Islam in that way, submission, peace, that's the beautiful meaning of the religion, which has been, people who don't understand, they have corrupted it to such an extent where they associate so many things which are remotely not even close to what the religion is all about. So Islam, in this sense, it has been always the religion of all the prophets. Because at the core of it, what is it saying? It's saying willing submission to my Creator. And we have seen those objectives which have come from the divine revelation. So it's such a simple and beautiful meaning of this word Islam. And that's why this is the religion of all the prophets, peace be upon them. But then the question arises that why does one see different variations then of the religion of God? If they all have emanated from the same source, then why the variation? Now the answer to that is twofold. First of all, the very first reason is that as a result of the passage of time, and also due to the fact that the previous religions, they were not under the divine protection of God, they underwent a lot of change, lot of variation. And of course, as a result, then we see that the fundamental truths which were brought by the messengers, they then gradually started differing from one religion to another. The most apparent being the strict tenets of belief and worship of God and God alone. This basic tenet, that also started then shifting. So that's the first reason why did it happen that we see the variations which started emanating. The second important reason, so first reason is clear to us, that previous religions, that they were not under the divine protection. Anytime it is not under the divine protection, then it tends to get variations tends to come, changes come, and that fundamental truth and the core then starts differing. The second very important reason for this variation is that creator, that God, he in his infinite wisdom and in his eternal will, he decreed that all the divine missions which were prior to the final message of Islam, which was brought by whom? Our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, our Prophet Muhammad. So the creator himself in his infinite wisdom, in his eternal will, he himself had decreed that all these divine missions which were prior to Islam, they were limited to a very specific time frame. And that's the reason, in fact, that their laws, their methodologies, they dealt with very specific conditions of the people for whom they were sent to address. And that's and then when it was addressed to those peoples, the new set of people who came, then the message, new messenger came, another message came. So that's why the prior messages which have been there, they were very limited. They were limited basically to very specific time frame. Now humanity, of course, has passed through numerous periods of, you can say, guidance, misguidance, integrity, deviation, from the most primitive age to heights of civilization. So many changes that we had undergone in all these times. And the divine guidance, that is something which accompanied humanity somehow through all of this, always providing the appropriate solution, always providing that remedy. And this was something which was the essence of the disparity which existed between different religions. So if we really understand the disagreement, it never went beyond the particulars of the divine law. In fact, each manifestation of the law, that divine law, it addressed the particular problem of the people for which it was meant for. But the areas of agreement, they were very significant. They were many. For example, you have fundamentals of faith, the basic principles, the basic objectives of divine law were protecting the faith, protecting the life, protecting the reason, lineage, wealth, establishing justice in the land. This has been always there. And of course, there has also been certain fundamental prohibitions which have always been there whenever there is a divine law. And what are the prohibitions that we find? The most important being idolatry, not to indulge in that, fornication, murder, theft, giving false witness. This has been something, in spite of all the variation which have been there, over the course of time, over the passage of time, these fundamental prohibitions has always been there in any law which was divine in nature. That essence is something that we find. And moreover, they also had agreed upon the moral virtues. For example, honesty, justice, charity, kindness, chastity, righteousness, mercy. These were also present whenever it was a divine law, whenever it was a revelation. So these principles, as well as others, this has been always permanent, always lasting. And whenever there was any deviation, whenever there was any corruption, then you would have another messenger, so that he could, another messenger coming down, sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sent by the God, by the Creator, so that it can again restore back these basic core into its proper place. And they are the essence. These things which I have pointed today, they are the essence of all the divine messages. The things which we had talked about, the basic fundamentals of the faith which are there, what is prohibited which is there, the fundamentals of prohibitions which have been there, the objectives which I have talked about, the 4 objectives which all the divine revelations bring about, which have been there, the idea of the Creator, how do we worship that Creator, all of that, these principles, the essence of all of that they that's the essence, in fact, of all the divine messages. And that is something which binds them all together for us to know that is this revelation coming from the Creator, from the God, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or not. So that's the core. If somebody asks or somebody wants to understand what is exactly the core of Islam, this is very briefly in nutshell what it talks about. Now, of course, there are a lot of more things which can be, which we can go into details to be able to understand in depth of it. But right now, we are just adorning ourselves with the basics, with the elementary understanding. So in the next chapter of adorning ourselves with this wisdom of Islam, we will be touching upon, right now today, we had touched upon the very core, the core idea which Islam brings about. In the next chapter of this particular series, we'll also see then this particular religion of Islam. We'll check out what was the origin of that, because we had seen that, with its core, with its ideas which were present, was it something which was there right from the time immemorial, right from the inception, or did it come later? What is it all about? So we'll see the history of that also very, very briefly, and then the basic beliefs which are present within that. So this is something which, this series is basically about, therefore, adorning our lives with this wisdom which Islam presents. And we are not going into any kind of complications. Very simple, in very, very easy to comprehend ways, we are trying to adorn ourselves with the basic wisdom which Islam presents. So with that, brothers and sisters, I think we can wind up this chapter of today's, and I hope that you will adorn yourselves with this basic core ideas that we have dwelt today with, to be able to imbibe that in your day-to-day life, to reflect upon that in your day-to-day lives, in terms of every action of yours, every deed, every word, and every thought. And once that is there, then of course, once it's like you become a personification of that, then it becomes almost so natural and so easy then to be able to prepare also for the Akhirat. And with that preparation, of course, to keep everybody in the duas. So with that, brothers and sisters, till we meet in the next chapter to learn more together, we have so many other series also going on parallelly, where we are learning about the literal translation from the holy text of Quran, where we are understanding the seerah of our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, where we are going through the hadiths which are there. So all of this in combination, is something which is going to be able to give us a very solid foundation of what is this deen all about. So with that then, let me greet Salamati upon all of you till we meet next, inshallah, in the next chapter, and learn a little more in most easy to understand ways for us. No complications, no ambiguity, no hi-fi fundas. Basic, elementary, easy to understand aspects of this beautiful and simple deen of Islam. So let me greet Salamati upon all of you till we meet next. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.